Hey, 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 everybody. It's What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson. I'm your host. I'm here with Doug Ashby. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you. It's as always, it's so much fun to be here.
It is, yes. And that's a new opening for us. We're trying some new things out. They provided some new tools on StreamYard. So that was kind of nice to be able, it made it easy for me to do an opening like that. So we'll try different things and hopefully gives you guys some time to know that we're on too. Because when Facebook and all the rest of them notify you, sometimes they don't. But, it's okay. Whatever happens, happens, right?
Well, that's what makes it fun.
Yes.
Above all else, we like to be informative, but we also like to be light, airy, and
Fun.
Make people laugh.
Yeah, and throughout my career, I've always wanted to have fun. If I'm going to have to work, I'm going to have fun. And then once I went into my own business, I had no choice but to have fun because you don't do this if you're not having a good time.
Well, the old adage, as it goes, if you find something that fits those categories, you will never work a day in your life again.
Very true. Very, very
Isn't
true.
Isn't that true?
Yeah.
That was me with fire department.
Yeah, it's true.
Very, 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 very few days that I can say where I went to work that, well, I can't say fun, because somebody's tragedy is not fun,
right,
but exciting. That's probably the best way to put it.
Yeah, your career was a little bit different. It's kind of hard to have fun putting out fires, I guess, unless maybe, I don't know. I guess you could, but not exactly what you're looking to have happen. So let's shoot on over to my Substack, and that would be hermson.substack.com. And hopefully you have subscribed, and you can see on the screen right there, we've got our little picture of the day and my little blurb today. Can you guess our word of the day? It's a little obsolete, like the image above, but if you look inside, you'll know what it is. So
I don't think it's obsolete, though.
Well, according to the definition that I read,
maybe the first definition.
Yes, the first definition is this definition.
This picture here, we were before the program. We were talking about this. This has roots for me because my dad took his watch one time to a jeweler to be repaired, and that's the way the inside. And I often, literally, all of my years, I've thought, how does a jeweler do that?
Yeah.
Look at all of those tiny little parts.
Yep.
Can you imagine? And I know everybody that's listening can relate to this. You start working on it, and what's the first thing that happens? A piece of part, falls on the floor.
That's right. One of those little screws falls on the floor. It's all over but the shouting, right? So, yes. So, our word of the day is fusee, and that's what that represents, which is the innards, to be rather blunt, the innards of the clock, right?
Yes.
So, that's not the official definition, by the way, but that's the one I like. From my 1934 dictionary, obsolete device in spring-driven timepieces for rendering constant the impelling force of the mainspring. Even the way that definition is written says all of 1934, right? Oh, Doug, I've lost you.
No.
Where'd you go?
Heard. Actually, one of the things that you said from 1934. This goes way back to the 5th century.
Yes, it does. Yes.
And that's what I say. I don't know where 34 comes
Well,
from.
1934 was when this dictionary was printed, and that's the one that I looked this up.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
it said obsolete at that point, right?
Yeah.
That was a long time ago.
Can I read the definition?
Sure, you go right ahead.
This is a fusee, and this is from, I always like when they do this. This is from the French word, fusee.
Yeah. Right?
There's a wire round around a spindle and is cone-shaped, pulley, and I like this word too coming up, with a helical groove around it, and wound with a cord or a chain attached to a mainspring barrel of an antique mechanical watches and clocks. It was used from the 15th century to the early 20th century to improve timekeeping by equalizing the uneven pull of the mainstream as it ran down. Perhaps no problem in mechanisms has ever been resolved so simply and so perfectly. Do you remember growing up when they used to always advertise watches? We keep time within 16 milliseconds. So you don't remember all of this?
I don't know.
Well, I've oftentimes thought about that. How about a digital watch now? They are 100% accurate.
Well, only if you have them set right to begin with. Right? My digital clocks in my cars are always 2 minutes off one way or the other. Always. Yes.
Well, you need a new car.
Probably.
Well, mine is.
If you look on the screen, by the way, it represents the fusee. That's from the Wikipedia page. And you can see there on the right-hand side a fusee and a 1760 pocket watch by John Lindquist of Stockholm. So just thought I'd show you the picture so you can see what that is. If you're listening on the radio, sorry, you'll just have to visualize.
Yeah.
What can I tell you?
Well, when I first looked at that, I thought, well, whatever. Here's
Well, here, tell us the second definition of fusee, though. 'Cause
definition.
I wanted to use a picture for that, but I opted for the clock because I thought it was kind of a cool looking little pocket watch there.
The second definition is a red signal flare used especially for protecting stalled trains and trucks. And I thought, well, that's when again, Janice and I were talking before the program. I'm probably one of the few people listening anyways. I know most firefighters know, but that's in our organization, that's what we called, commonly referred to as a road flare or a flare. We called them fusees.
Right.
So
yeah, and the other definition from this dictionary that I was talking about is a kind of friction match that will burn in the wind. And so that was going to be my picture was something of a match or whatever. I think I'm having as much fun finding pictures as I am finding the words now.
Here's what, again, this is on the second page. I looked here, and this is where someone actually wrote a question. I've always wondered how the term fusee came about. It says, I've also have heard them called railroad flares. They don't seem to be any different than a road flare, other than the steel spike at the end of a road flare. Well, that's where he's wrong too. Both seem to burn at the same rate. Road flares didn't have a spike. Railroad flares had a spike for an obvious reason. You could stick the spike into a tie.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
I mean, he's got a good idea, but he just has it flipped around. And then the answer to that, I always like that. It says they're both the same.
Oh, my goodness. Hey, do you have our, you can't make this stuff up? Did you look at that I sent you?
I certainly did. How did
you really
something like that pass?
Oh my goodness. I had to give it to you to do. I wanted to do it, but I said, no, this is you can't make this stuff up. And Doug has to deliver this because it was your idea for that kind of a little segment for us.
There is, and it really doesn't take much. If you just peruse the news now, you will always come up with something where, oh my God!
But this one's pretty amazing.
Yeah,
this one's pretty amazing.
Well, this is from a Democrat representative says few women go into manufacturing because we need a drum roll.
Oh, do I have a button for that?
Because manufacturing sounds like a guy. Now, have you ever related manufacturing to a guy?
No, sir.
It says,
Have not.
are you a woman who doesn't want to spend her days operating heavy machinery? Does the phrase industrial production fill with anything less than total inspiration? You're
And who was this
probably just
representative? Who was the
a
representative?
helpless victim of sexist language and are too stupid to read around it. This is
So who was the representative that presented it?
representative
This is real, folks. This is really
is-
on
I
the,
do-
was it
I-
on the congressional floor when she did this, or was she at a meeting or something? Did you catch that? I don't remember. I did read the article, but it was a while ago.
let's see. Suggested, of course, it has to be on the left side. Democratic Representative Jan, with a name like this, I understand how she comes up with it.
No, don't you
No,
dare
I
say that. Don't you dare say that. My name is Jan, and my last name was, you know what my last name was.
I do, ended
Yes.
with an SKY.
I.
Her name was SCHA Skachakowski of Illinois, who actually claimed out loud during a congressional hearing Wednesday that fewer women go into manufacturing because the term manufacturing sounds like a guy. Boy, you have to stretch things to come
Wow.
up with that.
That's really a reach. That's really
You know,
a reach.
it
And
is.
you can't
know,
make
but you
this
have to look
stuff
at her
up.
life and say, "Oh my gosh, you live a beautiful life."
Yeah.
You have to come up with this.
Well, how do we account for woman?
Pardon?
How do we account for the word woman? Man is in woman, so are we changing that too?
What is the? I don't know if you've heard it, and I'm going to have to really think about this. There is a flap now where you can't use the word mother.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that. Yeah, they want to call it something else. I don't remember what that term is. I think a lot of that is subsiding. It probably won't go away, but I think a lot of it is subsiding with the new administration because it's not being pushed as hard, right? It'll still be there, but
You know, I both my boys actually laugh at me because my email address is dndashby@AOL. They say only you and 3 other people are
It's
still on
true.
AOL.
every time I send you an email, I think the same thing.
It's just too much. There's just too many places out there that I'd have to change, so I stick with it. But what infuriates me is when I go online, most of the news I get is what is sent to me through AOL, which is all very, very liberal and very, very negative towards the conservatives. And that just frustrates me. But with that being said, I like reading it because you say, do they have a point? And I usually end up shaking my head and say no, because it ends up like this.
Right,
You know,
right.
there is just so many shots that they take. And another thing, and I would be willing to bet our listeners find this to be true. A lot of the headlines, when you read the article, first is you don't get to what the article says until the 3rd or 4th paragraph. And then when you do get to it, it has nothing to do with what the headline was.
Yeah, that is a problem with our news these days. I have so much I could address with that. But I want to talk about, I thought I was going to be late today. I thought I wasn't going to make it to work on time because I made the mistake of not renewing my driver's license because I didn't realize I had to go in, right? So because of the way our DMV works, I had to actually make an appointment. And so I did, and I managed to get an 8:30 appointment. And so that was good. But I thought, I wonder how long this is going to take. So, everybody in different DMVs across the country have had good and bad experiences. I would call this the good and the bad and the who knows what. So when I first walked in the door, some man was walking out and he was livid. You could just see it. And he said, he looks at me, turns around and he goes, rude. And I was like, ooh, okay. So I came in, and what you do at our DMV is you make an appointment, and then they text you, and you press the number 2, and then it tells you how long before your appointment. So it's really kind of a cool setup, right? Mine said 4 minutes, and I was early. Yeah, four. Yeah, I was early, and so I thought, oh, very cool, right? 4 minutes.
How did the guy coming out get violated? And
I don't know. Because all he did was just look at me and rude, So obviously he'd had a bad encounter. Well, then I was sitting there, and I was watching and listening, and this woman at the information counter, she was kind of forceful, didn't smile a lot, gave you information, right? But so I thought, oh, that's probably why. She probably set him off, and it's 8:30 in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning, right? She just set him off, and he thought she was rude. So then I'm watching, and, being a people watcher, right? And that's what you do when you're sitting around waiting for your 4 minutes to go by after 5, 6, 7, 8 minutes. So my 4 minutes kept being 4 minutes, but it never ended, right? It didn't get to where, at 4 minutes, I was still sitting there, and it still said 4 minutes.
Whenever I was in that position, finally, when they called me your name or something, I always felt like I won something.
I know. It's true. Yeah, and they have a board up there, and they're going to put your phone number and your name up there when you actually are ready to, and they tell you what window to go to. So again, the good part of this is that, that was excellent, right? I mean, that process, you could see it working. Yeah. And sure, it was beyond 4 minutes, but I was still early for my appointment. So it wasn't beyond the time that I was supposed to be there. So I wasn't upset. I just thought it was funny because it kept saying 4 minutes. And it just kept saying 4 minutes. Then I realized I had to fill out a form. And I was like, oh, shoot. Because now it's closer to 8:30, and I'm thinking, oh, no, I'm not. They're going to not let me go because I didn't fill out the form. So I hurried up.
Can I stop you right
there?
Sure. When I was there, that exact same thing happened to me. So I grabbed a form, I filled it out. She says, this is the wrong form.
Oh, no.
I said, I apologize for that, but can you tell me where up on that board or any place in here where it tells me the right form?
Well, it didn't even tell me I needed to fill out a form.
That's my point.
And even on my little app, it didn't tell me.
That's exactly my point.
That's what I said, the good, the bad, the in between, right? So I had the form filled out, and then they have that question about if you're a citizen. And I started to fill it out, and I thought, I don't want them changing my voter registration. So I scratched it off and said NA, right? So that was okay. Everything was fine. Then the next thing, what happened then? Oh, so I got the form filled out, and then I see this guy walking back, and he says, and I won't say the word, but it rhymes with witch. And he was walking away from the same counter that I just told you about where that lady was. So some people don't have a good experience at the DMV. I did. I had a very good experience because then I got called, went up to the counter, went through the process, and I want to commend Jessica because she was awesome and she was informative and she was quick and she did the job very well. Had to walk over, do my little eye thing, and then, come back. However, I want to inform her that she told me that they're going to do the Real ID, right? So Real ID is coming into effect, I believe it's May 7th. And if you don't have a Real ID license, she says you're not going to be able to go into federal buildings, including post offices.
Oh, jeez.
And I said, really? I said, they're not going to let me come in the post office if I don't have a Real ID? That seems odd. I said, people are going to be upset about that. They're not going to.
This goes back to my premise. And how are we to know that?
Right. Well, so being who I am, I went on the internet and I did some research. And as it turns out, it doesn't look like that will be the case. It says some federal offices. So she probably read the guidelines that said federal offices and figured it was all federal offices, including post offices, right? But it's not. From what I'm reading, it sounds like that's not going to be the case. So, because that would be very distressing or distressful, or I don't know, it would distress me. Yeah. So I don't think that that's a worry. And the other thing that I found out is that if you go on a plane and you don't have a real ID after May 7th, you might think you wouldn't get on the plane. Well, there are ways that you can do that. You do have to, probably go through some sort of a search or provide some other information in order to get on your flight. But if you're planning to do a lot of travel, either get a passport or get a real ID, because you're gonna. And if you're not a citizen, there are other requirements, and so just check that out and see what you have to do. But I thought I'd share that the real ID is apparently going to go into effect, and there you go.
Well, a couple things on my experience with the DMV. I also, a couple bumps on the road, like you're saying.
Yeah, but all in all, I do want to commend him, because we always say bad things about DMV, and this, for me, was a good experience. But I observed a couple of people that didn't share my joy.
Well, yes, one of the things that the problems that I had, I bought an antique car in California, and the guy that redid the car, there are 3 numbers, vehicle numbers.
Okay.
And all 3 of them have to match. If they don't, you have to have it inspected, which this guy did. Highway patrolman came over, California highway patrolman came over to his house and said, okay, yes, this one, you put a new engine in it, it has a different number. He said, we acknowledge that. Here are the 3 numbers. This is what they are. And he signed it off. It says, we have I know. Hey, when I bought the vehicle, I knew there was going to be a problem. So I take it to Nevada. And Nevada went out and had it, you have to have it inspected. And the guy says, well, the engine number doesn't match the others. And I said, I'm aware of that. Here's a piece of paper from California Highway Patrol. They verified it. And he says, we don't accept that.
Oh, dear.
I said, well, then what am I to do? Well, you have to verify. You have to take the car off the body to have it verified again.
What?
That's the same thing. I said,
what?
I said, are you listening to yourself? Does logic ever come to apply to this?
Oy, oy, oy.
Okay, but now, so this is where it really does get better. I went back to California, went to the guy I bought the car from, and he says, well, you know what? Let's see if we can get a hold of that highway patrolman that inspected it. Okay.
Oh, all right.
So he said, perfect. This highway patrolman went to Nevada with us to verify
What?
that these numbers were correct.
He went to Nevada?
That's how far the guy in California
Wow.
went for us. So, but
That's amazing.
It doesn't matter what the issues are. What the bottom line is common sense never prevailed. What am I?
That didn't even make
Just
sense at
just
all.
take the body off the car. I said, okay, that's really great too. Once I get the body off the car, how am I going to get it verified? The guy says, yeah, that's a pretty good question, because I can't drive with the body off the car.
You want me to do it here?
Now,
Wow.
just,
That's pretty incredible.
But anyway, I did get over those hurdles. My dealings with the Nevada DMV also were very pleasant. And the lady that I was working with, and I had to tell her that. I said, thank you for walking me through and helping me with this stuff, because, I had to explain to her about registering this and everything. And I said, most people don't seem not to understand. See, we come in and visit you one time every couple of years. You sit in that chair and deal with everybody every day.
Right.
I can imagine that at the end of the day, you are pretty angry.
Yeah, well, that poor information lady, she was not a happy girl. She was not a happy girl. And I felt bad for her, but,
and Janice, and I know you, and I know exactly what happened. You reap what you sow. You went in there with a smile on your
Ah.
face.
And I didn't go to the information desk, by the way. I heard that and I went, ooh, I'm staying away from there.
No, you went in there. You went in there with the attitude, I'm going to make this. I'm going to make this work.
You're right. I did actually have that intention before I went. I thought every time you go to DMV, it's not a pretty picture. I'm not going to go with that idea. I'm going to go with the idea that it's all going to go very well. And it did. It did. So,
Okay, let me take a step away from this. My granddaughter just had the front of her car run into. Right?
okay.
It can't be driven. And so her dad gets out there and they call the Nevada Highway Patrol. Well, how do you do that? They use 911. The lady said, are there any injuries? And he says, no. And she says, well, we don't come out to do accident reports.
So how are you supposed to report it then? Because you're supposed to report it according to what I understood, right?
Well, he said, let's back up. Ask me again your first question. Are there any injuries? And he says, I don't know. I'm not a doctor. Two can play this game.
Did she send someone?
No, she did. She
Yeah.
sent a highway patrolman. But
Again, no
that
common
is
sense.
So frustrating.
Yeah.
If anybody has ever had to deal with the police department, you do walk away with thinking, just what is it exactly you do? Because every hurdle we come to here, you tell me, oh, we don't do that.
Right.
What is it you do? You're a policing agent. What is it that you do then? Because that list is a lot shorter than the one of all the things you don't do. And then you drive out of there and you drive by a highway patrolman that's sitting in his vehicle with his radar behind a signboard.
Yes. Hey, you remember, I'm going to switch gears on you now. You remember our beneficial ownership information?
I do.
Well, guess what? It is finally over with.
Does that mean they canceled it?
No. However, it is, I guess I would say it is somewhat on hold. I probably should I didn't pull up the actual documentation on that, so I will do that. But basically what's happened is that they are saying, you know what, this is silly, and we're not going to fine people thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars because they're just not going to do that. So I believe, and I'm so sorry I didn't pull up that document. I'm going to go to Grok because that's been my favorite little thing. You know what Grok is?
What is?
Grok?
No, I do not.
Grok is on, it's AI, and it's on, and you know how I feel about AI. I have to also eat some of my words on this because, and I'm not signed in. Doggone it. Oh, no, I am. But where is it? Profile, there's Grok. So, okay, so I'm going to say BOI, what is the status? So that's what we're going to do. And I think it'll know what BOI is. Oh, nope, it thinks I'm asking about him. Or him, her, it. Beneficial ownership information. What is the status? So I've been using this a lot as far as finding information. I did some research. Oh, and we have to do our actual headline. I haven't even covered that. So December 2024, I've gotten off track, and I'm sorry, guys. I know I'm kind of all over the map. But February 17, 2025, the court lifted this injunction because we all know that they had put some stays and whatever, set a new deadline of March 21st. But when businesses were scrambling to comply, the Treasury announced on February 27th they're pausing enforcement. No fines or penalties, even if you miss March 21st. They're planning to tweak the deadlines again with an interim rule before that date rolls around. There were so many legal challenges that they just, what can I tell you? Posts on X reflect the whiplash. Some folks are relieved it's off for now. Others worry it's a free-for-all for financial crooks. I don't believe that. This is going after the little guy. I mean, as a small business owner, are you thinking I'm laundering money in any kind of, depth or volume? I mean, give me a break.
Janice, this to me, just what you said there, is kind of the recipe that is used between firefighters and policemen. Firefighters, whenever they're called, they'll go to where they are, they solve the problem. So
and we've talked about this before.
We're always the good guy. When a policeman goes out there, what do they have to fall back on? Force. And they always say, you want to go to jail. So there's a big difference here because they are taught that everybody out there is out to get them.
Right.
The same thing that you were talking about there, that with this farm.
Right. Well, because why would you've already got all our information. When we file with the state, we have to sell our souls to file with the state to begin with. So they already have the information. The IRS has the information. Everybody's got our information. They know who owns the company, right? So why do they need to dig in further and have us file an information statement? And the thing is, they want to know, what if you have a child involved? What if you have this or that involved? No. There still needs to be some privacy in our world. And from a legal standpoint, I'm telling you who owns the business. I own the business. If I decide I want to give some money to my kid, as long as I legally file what I want to, I shouldn't be on the hook for anything. So anyway, that being said, even old Grok 3 here says that the situation is fluid and they could drop new rules any day and courts might flip the script again. So if you've got a business, keep an eye on FinCEN's website. And so I have alerts coming to me. So if they change it again, I will let you know again. But for now, even if you file late or don't file at all, looks like there's not going to be any penalties.
Janice, this is much bigger than just this farm. What we're saying is we don't like the government being intrusive into our personal lives.
Right. That's true.
And you use that as a template. A couple of weeks ago, Janice and I were talking. Several years ago, I closed escrow on a piece of property that I had. And the escrow officer called and said, well, we can't close. You didn't fill out this form completely.
Oh, I remember. Yeah, you talked about that a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they said, well, what's that? He says, well, the last question there is, what are you going to do with this profit that you made?
Right. The banks always want to know why you're closing your account, too. Like when you go in to close an account, well, why are you closing it? And they don't want to let you close unless you tell them why. And none of your business. That's why. Yeah. I want to close it.
That's how.
Why does a bank need to know, especially if you're opening it? Where did the money come from? Stuff like that. I don't know. I guess that's sometimes an issue. But are you kidding me?
One of the things that Janice and I came up with, and I so agreed with, I think this is an arm of the drug war.
I agree, and I do get it, but you got to find another way to figure it out because we are business owners that just want to do our business. We don't need to be bothered by all this nonsense.
Well, so when you look back down,
it's hard enough doing what we're doing
with our founding fathers. This was of the people, by the people, and for the people.
Yep, absolutely.
How is this making me a better person?
Yeah,
you having this information.
Yeah, it's not. So I do think that we do have to kick back and let them know we're not happy. When we're not happy. So my headline for this week was Disappointments and Fireworks. Is it all by design? To those who expected the Epstein files to be released on Friday, February 28th, there was an unexpected quiet in the news until the meeting between Zelensky and Trump and Vance in the White House. So on February 27th, they released what were already released Epstein files, right? So you got these influencers that receive these white binders, which I still have not figured out why you would give a bunch of people white binders, but okay. So they walk out of the White House with these white binders like they've really got to find. And it turns out that all the information that was in those white binders had already been released. So then you're supposed to be getting something on February 28th, and it's all quiet until Trump and Vance are in the White House with Zelensky, and there's fireworks, right? So my question, and it's just a question, and I told everybody I might don my little conspiracy hat, my little tinfoil hat, but why were there so many fireworks when in fact what should be happening is we should be getting some Epstein files, and so is it related? I've heard people say no, absolutely not. People in high places have said that was not by design. That was not something that was done on purpose. I don't know. I feel like they're all acting, that these are all actors out there just doing what they do and putting on a show for us. Because now today's March 4th, and today Zelensky's out there saying, oh, I think I want to come back and sign the deal. So, what's going on?
Well,
I'm really summarizing this very briefly because I had a whole lot more to say.
Ago, Debbie said, oh, this is really going to be interesting because they're going to release all of the names and everybody, the flight logs and
right.
I mean, you name it. And I said, Deb, it's not going to happen.
Right.
There's too many power bases that will get rattled. It will not happen.
Right. Well, Gene Hackman passed away recently. You know that Gene Hackman had a home near the Epstein island.
Really?
Yes. And some people say, and I don't know who those people are.
But
some people say, putting on my little tinfoil hat, that Gene Hackman knew some things.
Yeah.
And he had said in some public forum that, they can destroy the files, but I can tell them. So that's just what I heard. I don't know if that's true or not. You can check me. You can go look it up somewhere. I've checked with Grok, and Grok is very, very silent on this stuff, by the way.
This is going back probably, with the way the time goes, but it was in relationship to the flight log. And it said that President Trump, it didn't say President Trump, it says Trump was listed over 12 times in the flight log.
No, I don't believe that's true. Not from what I've read.
Well,
I think he was on twice.
You read the article.
I didn't read that article.
And you know what they said? But these 12 times that he was on this airplane, there is absolutely no signs whatsoever of illegality or irregularity. So it made a great headline for the liberals, but nothing.
And that's the thing, you got to be careful when you look at headlines. And like you said, oftentimes these headlines that you're reading, they don't even address them until they're like halfway through the article, and then they finally get around to what they were talking about, and then it's not even exactly what they blasted you with.
It was just a little derivative.
Yeah. So I do want to get back to my whole thing I started to talk about when I got all distracted on the beneficial ownership information. The Grok thing, and I was using ChatGPT for a while, and it really was not accurate. It wasn't providing me with much information. I felt like it lied all the time, and I would say so, and it would say, I'm sorry if you feel misled. And but I did start to use Grok, and I will say that as far as research goes, it doesn't keep you from having to really do some work and do some investigating. However, it does expedite the research part of it, and if you use it correctly, it gives you reference points. So you can go to the articles that it's researched. It tells you how it's gone through the research. So for that, I have to say it's awesome. It's really awesome. Now, I asked some questions about Epstein, and what else was I asking about? I asked about a few things. And, I know, there was somebody that posted something, and I wanted to check the facts, right? So I said, factually, check these statements and see if there are any reference points to, I contrived a whole little thing. Well, it came back and it gave me some information and said, no, it's all a bunch of bunk, basically. Again, I'm summarizing. So then I said, well, check some alternative sources, because this came from alternative social media. So I wanted to see, well, what are they saying, And then it told me that, no, the mainstream media has the sources, and they're saying that it's a bunch of kaflooey, okay? And so I said, well, but the mainstream media is not something anyone trusts. If you check sources, you'll see that the majority of our sources say that, the public, the general public, does not trust mainstream the way it used to. So then it comes back with, oh, you're right? Here's all this data about how in 1972, mainstream was trusted 68% of the time, but now mainstream is only trusted 36% of the time. So you have to challenge. I think that's my point, is that, yes, it's very useful, but you have to take the data it provides you and so for some of my friends that are fans of InfoWars and Gateway Pundit, it was bashing Gateway Pundit and InfoWars, saying how bad it was. So I challenged it and said, wait a minute, how can they be? You're saying they're bad because they don't provide sources, but the mainstream media says that it's from an what do they call it when they don't know who, or that an unnamed source, mentioned blah, blah, blah. That's okay, but you want documentation from the alternative media? How does that work? It again conceded to me and said, oh, yeah, you're right, blah, 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 blah. So again, you got to be smart when you use this stuff. You got to think about what you're doing. But for as far as research information, I have tons of stuff on all the stuff you were talking about with Epstein. I was able to pull all the names of the people that have been identified. And there's somebody out there that, I can't remember her name, but she's done a ton of research on Epstein. So somebody's already got this, but I wanted to see what I could get, right? And what was ironic last night, after I did all this research, my internet went out.
Oh, geez.
Now, conspiracy hat on. Right? My sister yells, hey, the internet's out. And I was like, oh, yeah, it is. We did get it fixed.
They have your name, and they know where you live.
It was just funny, though, because it was right after I did 2 different searches, and they were pretty in-depth, right?
Well, one of the books that I'm reading right now is a Bill O'Reilly book, and he is a very prolific author. And I was in the bookstore, Barnes and Noble, and just looking, and this one popped out at me, and I thought, I didn't know that he wrote this, and it's about all the presidents.
Oh, you haven't seen those? We got a bunch of them.
Well, no, this one. This is his latest. It was produced literally this.
Oh, okay. I didn't know he had a new one.
Yeah, well, and it goes and he has a co-writer, Martin Dugar.
Mm-hmm. I think he's been writing with him for a while.
And I always told Debbie, I said, I'll bet you this is, his co-writer's doing all of this, and Bill's just signing on to it. Bill is a dyed-in-the-wool conservative. So I thought, he's going to pull somebody in with him that shares his values. Well, I read both of the biographies of both of these. Martin Dugar is a liberal.
How about that?
Well, you said
Go figure.
Oh, absolutely.
That's
And
good.
as a matter of fact, in his biography, he says, I am somewhat of an anomaly because not only am I a liberal, I live in Orange County.
Oh,
In California,
wow.
yeah. So he says, yes.
So he kind of lives in
but I
enemy
am.
territory.
But where I was headed with this, I'm on the 8th president right now, but the thing that really stands out is the fact then they go back to, they start with George Washington naturally, and I'm on the 8th president. The news media absolutely hated conservatives, so they just lied.
Oh,
They just absolutely, so much so that the early Congress had to enact a law, even though we have the First Amendment, that would prevent them from it. And it was about, but anyway, the moral of the story here is this is in this 1780, maybe something
Okay.
like that. So 150 some years or whatever that boils out to, the news media hasn't changed its spots. They'd still do the same thing.
the difference now is that the people don't believe them.
Oh, that's because there's so many more. Well, see, back then they said there was 200 newspapers. There was no radio. There was no
Right,
television. There
right.
was no internet. So that's how people got their news.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. Now there is so many alternatives to it, and I like to think that people are just getting smarter.
I hope so, and
I do
and
too.
I do think that the longer that we keep doing what we're doing, that people have learned to question, and everything should be questioned.
Yes.
Again,
But Janice, with that being said, I am not that naive where I think everything that the conservatives put out is
no.
100%.
no, and that's where I'm saying you've got to question.
So,
But to
who do
say
you believe?
to have well, I think you have to use your own resources and weigh the differences, and that's what I do. I look and I say, okay, and even in my research, my purpose was to try and whittle it down to a point of, okay, where does it kind of coincide? Where do things sort of, and then you have to trust your own senses, right?
Yeah.
And does that ring true to you? Does that seem even plausible?
Well, yeah,
right?
I mean,
So
it's
you
very
kind of have to
easy-
go there
It's
too.
very easy to look at manufacturing and go to the congresswoman that wrote that and say, oh my gosh, is this an insight to her?
I just don't understand how the folks, it's like that congressman that was saying that the island was going to tip over.
Yeah.
I was like, you're kidding. I thought it was a joke.
Yes.
I was sure it was a joke. And then I happened on a C-SPAN or something, and he was actually saying that, and he really meant it. You could see it. And I thought, oh my Lord, he thinks that's true. And it just, how do these people get in power? How do they get in power?
One of the talking heads that I listened to is a fellow by the name of Tom Sullivan, conservative.
He's not. He's in the middle.
Well,
He's not conservative.
That's a good thing then, right?
I don't
But
know.
he says-
Only because he tries to say he's conservative, and I don't think he is. I've actually written to him. We sparred a little bit for a short period of time.
Oh, that's a good thing.
Yeah, because
That
and he
is.
refused when it came to elections. He refused to look at anything, and that was frustrating to me. Not that I thought he should think the way I thought, but I thought he should look at it and examine it and come to his own conclusions instead of just taking what the media was telling him and spouting that.
Well, one of his premises is that Congress is filled with C- students,
Well,
and I
it's
think
true.
he really gives them credit.
Yeah.
You know it.
On that note, guess what time it is? It's time for us to take our first break, and we will. You'll be able to see the room, and if we're here, you'll see us, but you won't hear us for right now. But we will be back, and we'll do a second hour in probably about 8-9 minutes thereabouts. So hopefully you'll stick with us. Like I say, we're not going to actually go totally off. We're just going to silence it. If you're listening on the radio, it will be silent, very silent, and we won't be back with you until after the news.
This is kind of an insight to Janice when she says, I'm going to turn this off. I sit across from her and I watch her push the buttons. She has 8 buttons there to turn us off.
I have a lot. All right. So we'll be back in just a few. Hopefully you'll stay with us. And, we're just going to take a short break, get some water, all those things. See you soon. Hey, welcome back, everyone. This is What's the Story? I'm Janice Hermson. This is our second hour today on March 4th. Hey, Doug. Doug Ashby, author of Heroes and Giants. I don't want to forget to tell you that. Check out his book. He's also got it available on audio, which is awesome. I don't remember the guy's name that did that, but you can listen to a preview. It's very well done.
It is done. He has a good voice, doesn't he?
I think you paid him for that.
We have to give Ed a plug, too. Ed has a great voice.
Oh, he does, yes. Yeah. And we didn't mention Ed at the beginning. We knew he wouldn't be able to make it today. He's visiting some family. But we do miss having him with us.
Sure.
And he's now in Ohio, and he will be hanging out there for a while. But he'll be back with us eventually. Just time will tell, right? We all have our commitments, but he sent me some information and said that he'll be back. That's all I can say. He'll be back. Isn't that who is it that says that? I'll be back.
I'll be back.
Yeah. So there you go. All right. So I just want to make sure I got everything together here. And I wanted to chat a little bit about Melania Trump. Mention also today, of course, President Trump will be in the joint Congress at 6 o'clock Pacific time, which is 9 o'clock Eastern time. So don't know if you're planning on listening to that. I plan on it.
Yes.
I may have to listen in my car on my way home, but I will be listening. So hopefully, no matter which side you're on, you listen and, take from it what you will, right?
I wonder who's carrying it on the West Coast.
I have no idea. I heard CNN wasn't going to cover it.
Well,
I was like,
go figure.
Well, yeah. Okay. That just doesn't even make sense, but okay. And then you wonder why your ratings are bad. I mean, just cover it. Just be a news agency. Don't be biased. Be a news agency. That's what he's the president of the United States, like him or not. So, all right. But anyway,
my God.
Let's talk a little bit about the First Lady, Melania Trump. So, in her first Capitol Hill visit of her husband's second term, she attended a roundtable to promote what's called the Take It Down Act, which was sponsored, are you ready? Speaking about all this, by Republican Senator Ted Cruz of Texas and Democratic Senator Amy Klobuchar of Minnesota, a bipartisan bill, right? Bill. Bill has already unanimously passed in the Senate, according to Fox News. The legislation makes it a federal crime to publish or threaten to post online intimate images the subject does not want posted, including digital forgeries made by artificial intelligence. A quote, I was heartened to learn that Senator Cruz and Senator Klobuchar are united to prioritize this fundamental matter. I must admit, however, this is coming from the First Lady, I must admit, however, I expected to see more Democrat leaders with us here today to address this serious situation. Surely, as adults, we can prioritize America's children ahead of partisan politics, she said in a video posted to X.
From what you just said, I don't know if I'm in favor of that. We have the First Amendment.
Yes, but this is digital forgeries. These are fake. Hang on, wait till you hear the rest of it. The widespread presence of abusive behavior in the digital domain affects the daily lives of our children, families, and communities. Addressing this issue is essential for fostering a safe and supportive environment for our young people. I hope today's roundtable builds awareness of the harm caused by non-consensual, intimate imagery and eventually the approval of the Take It Down. So what they're doing is they're taking pictures of you, of that child, and they're faking them and making them nudes and then posting them.
We already have a law. It's called libel laws.
Yes, but you have to have something to be able to take these people out because they won't take them off the internet. They won't take them off. And they're not real. They're fake. All right, let me finish.
Okay.
Completing this poll, that's something else altogether. In today's AI-driven world, it's AI that they're using to do this. The threat of privacy breaches is alarmingly high. As organizations harness the power of our data, the risk of unauthorized access and misuses of personal information escalates. We must prioritize robust security measures and uphold strict ethical standards to protect individual privacy. As First Lady, my commitment to the Be Best initiative underscores the importance of online safety. In an era where digital interactions are integral to daily life, it's imperative we safeguard children from mean-spirited and hurtful online behavior. So there's a child, Elliston Berry, who was impacted by an AI deepfake. She said was a victim when she was 14. Noted that a classmate used an AI to take a picture of Barry and turn it into a fake nude of her. So that's what they're talking about. That's the type of material.
See, that's liable stuff.
Yeah, but I don't think that they can. Well, I don't know all the details. I came here today to not only promote the bill, but to fight for the many survivors, the now 15-year-old said. It's so inspiring to know that my voice is being heard, giving hope to not only me, to all the many people that have been affected by this. It's truly amazing how this awful situation has turned to good. So Elliston's mom said she called Snapchat, which is where it was posted. It was on Snapchat. She emailed them. She tried repeatedly, take this garbage down of my daughter, and she got no response at all, no movement.
But if it was a conservative, it'd be down in a nanosecond.
I don't know what that means. No, I don't know what you're saying. If it was a conservative,
the stuff that never. If you're a conservative.
Oh, you're saying if it was conservative information.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, this was a nude of her daughter that wasn't even real. It should not take a sitting senator or a sitting member of Congress picking up the phone to get a picture or a video down. So they're refusing to take them down. They're refusing to take down the pictures when they're fakes.
Then I think the purveyor of that, not necessarily the originator, but the purveyor, whatever vehicle it was, if they refuse, then I think they become liable.
Perhaps that's what this act is all about.
You know,
it may be what this is all about, Doug.
Janice, you know that I agree with what you're saying.
I know.
I just think it's very, very difficult to go down that road.
I know, but it looks like there's a bipartisan action being taken. And at least if you can get the social media folks to take this stuff off, I think that's the important part. And that's what this is addressing.
With the social media stuff, you have to threaten them with their...
well, in this case, they had to have a sitting senator call them in order for them to take it down.
What he probably said is that I'm going to work very, very hard to do away with your tax advantage.
Could be. Who knows? But they got him to take it down.
Money, right?
They got him to take it down, and I think that's important. I am sorry to hear that there wasn't more bipartisan support, but at the same time, at least they have a beginning. You know, you gotta take the good with the bad, right? The DMV experience, right? All right, so let's talk about, I know you have something to talk about too, but let's talk about the Department of Education.
Perfect.
Because we talked about it, I think it was 2 weeks ago when we were on, because we weren't on last week. And we were saying we didn't really understand if they got rid of it, what might happen, you know, all of that. And then I ran across a social media post, I believe this was on X, and it's a breakdown of Returning Education to Our States Act. So there's apparently an act that's returning education to the states. And it says the child nutrition program is not paid out of the Department of Education. Because we asked about that, right? We didn't know for sure. This is managed by the Department of Agriculture, so it's not impacted. And I actually received from, I don't even remember, from the Nevada Department of Agriculture, a little media toolkit to talk about what they do. So that confirms what this says is true, that it goes through the Department of Agriculture. The Federal Pell Grant Program, Federal Family Education Loan Program, William D. Ford Federal Direct Loan Program, Federal Perkins Loans programs, all not going anywhere. They're still going to be alive and well, just moving to the Department of Treasury. Okay, so they're moving a lot of the things that were covered under the Department of Education, they're moving to different departments. Isn't that what you do in a business when things are maybe you're having to consolidate some stuff or save some money. You kind of consolidate into departments that are already existing. So that's what they're doing. All functions, programs, and authorities of the Secretary of Education under the Individuals with Disability Education Act shall be transferred to the Department of Health and Human Services. This is your IEPs, your early intervention, special education grants, free special education services. Those all will just be moving to the Department of Health and Human Services, and it's not financially impacted. Each authority and program of the Office of Indian Education of the Department of Education shall be transferred to the Department of the Interior. So there are programs designed for Native Americans specifically in their education, no financial impact. Title VIII of Elementary and Secondary Education Act of 1965, transferred to the Department of Health and Human Services. This includes financial assistance, local education. So I guess what I'm really trying to say is it's all being transferred to different departments. Health Education Assistance Program and the programs under the Education Science Reform Act of 2002 will also be moving to the Department of the Treasury. Education Science Reform Act of 2002, programs that generate and apply education research to improve learning and policies nationwide, moving to Treasury.
Janice, is this smoke and mirrors, what you're telling me?
No, this is the act.
Well, what I'm saying is, well, that's great. Oh, we're breaking up, the Department of Education. If
They're moving it back to the states, though, and the things that were covered by the feds are going to different departments.
Okay, if they're going to the state, I understand. But if they're if it's smoke and mirrors and they're just moving them
these
around.
are federal programs that people were worried about because they were getting rid of the Department of Education. They wanted to make sure that they wouldn't lose things like the Pell Grant. I'm sure, you've known people who use the Pell Grant, right? So, like it or not, it's still there. It's going to be moved, and there's no financial impact. So, all these things will still be alive and well, just moving to a different department. So, I wanted to share that because I thought we didn't know what was going to happen. And if you're worried about the food programs, well, I just got something from the National CACFP, the Department of Agriculture, talking about nutritious foods to children and all the different things they're going to do. They send out these things that we can post to social media and talk about, how things will be helped. So,
well, one of the things, and I hadn't given it much thought until I read an article and I started reading through this. Kids get lunch now. They get breakfast now at school.
Well, there's some legislation in front of the Nevada legislature this year. They want to feed everybody. That's just not a good idea.
Well, see, the thing of it is that
I mean, everybody. There no income requirements, nothing. Why should the schools be feeding your children? Half the time the kids don't like what they feed them anyway.
The article that I read, this is slowly but surely taking mom and dad out of the family.
Right, and that's part of the game, I'm pretty sure. Tinfoil hat time. And see, you even wear a tinfoil hat every now and then.
That what?
You even wear a tinfoil hat every now and then.
You think?
I do. You've hung around with Ed and me too long.
It just why, again, and that's why you kind of have to hand it to Trump. I don't know how much of the stuff we hear about him is true, but I like the fact that he is tackling this stuff. And I can hear, and I haven't heard him say it, but I could hear it's certainly an issue for him. Why on earth should I be buying your breakfast? Which is true. Oh, well, kids learn better with a full stomach. You don't know that.
But not only that, this is about empowering parents again to do what they need to do. And for those parents who do need help, hopefully they'll ask for it and there'll be some program available to help them.
Instead of what we're saying is quit using the roller, start using a paintbrush. Do a little bit. Don't just
Yeah.
coat everybody with the same color.
No, exactly. And I mean, I think that most parents want to take care of their own children. I know that there are those that probably are not very responsible, but I don't know. I just feel like the parents I've met, they want to take care of their kids. And if they can get help, of course, they appreciate that. But we've gone beyond appreciation to, they expect it. So, and that's because we've set them up to expect it.
Maybe this is a good time to bring up school choice. I think that's a wonderful thing. I worked down in the ghetto in South Central Los Angeles for a number of years, and we had a firefighter. Matter of fact, he was on our crew, and this kid, God bless him, he had the biggest smile. You could not be around him and see him smile, or it didn't make you smile. He was, and I asked him, I said, how? I said, first off, where were you brought up? And he says, well, he says over at 107th and Budlong. 108th and Budlong is where base for all of the criminal activity, all of the gangs were there. And I said, well, how did you escape that? And he said, my mother would walk me to school every morning, and in the afternoon she would walk me home.
Wow.
And he said, I have several brothers that are in prison. And I said,
shame.
that is absolutely amazing.
Yeah.
But you know what? He was just, what a wonderful kid. I mean, he really was. And he came out of that system. Well, you can't tell me his mother had to walk to school to get him. You can't tell me that the people in South Central LA, those moms, didn't want their kids out of those bad schools to go to another one.
Right.
They love their kids. They wanted them
do.
out of that environment. But, oh, no, you can't do that. Well, why?
And there's always going to be some that have their own problems and maybe aren't, the model parent that they'd like to be. But for the most part, I think the larger percentage of parents, they love their kids and they just want to do what's best for them.
Yeah.
But we've created an environment where everything becomes an entitlement instead of earning, and we need to switch that. And I think that's kind of what's happening right now, is that things are starting to be changed a bit.
There was another he was another black firefighter, and I talked to him one day, and he was getting on one of our hazmat units, and in his first week of training, I asked him, I said, well, how's that training going? He says, do you know what? They have this thing called the periodic chart. And I said, yeah. Well, me growing up in my high school, there wasn't a physical, class that didn't have the periodic chart posted up on the wall. He said, all the way through high school, I never saw it and I never knew what it was. So you can't tell me that the education is the same in these schools.
Yeah. Suzanne says, she's put a comment here, schools feeding everyone makes as much sense as the DMV registering everyone to vote. That's very true.
Well, let's combine those. Not only are we to vote for the DMV, they're going to feed them breakfast.
Oh my goodness!
Because you can't vote on it.
Well, and I got to tell you, I am going to check my voter registration now that I've had to be had a new driver's license, because I just know that something's going to change. I just know it is.
Do you know what was fun?
And then I don't know what I'm going to do. I mean, I'm going to change it to whatever I want it to be, but I am going to question that, and I want to. Hopefully it doesn't happen. The gal said, oh, no, they're not going to register you. And I was like, well, I've seen it happen.
Well, one of the things,
we'll see.
Again, you just sit in that DMV office, and there's a cross-reference right there, cross-section of people here in Nevada. And you see every walk of life there.
Oh, you do. Yeah, you do.
And if you're a people watcher.
And the thing is, what frustrated me a little bit, because I had some other business I needed to do and I couldn't do it because they only go by appointment. So I could only take care of that. And this other piece of business I had, I either have to mail it in or I have to make another appointment.
Well-
Now, I probably could have made a multi-visit appointment, but I needed to get this thing done right away.
When I went down
You don't want to
there,
not have a license.
I had an appointment also like you. Well, they have, when you check in for your appointment, there's a line and it says basically appointments this side and, all others here. There was a sign that says we're no longer taking walk-ins.
Right. Yeah.
What?
That's what I was saying. Yeah. I couldn't do any other business. There was a guy that came in with his son. I guess he wanted to do a driving test, right? And they couldn't sign up for it. They have to go on and make an appointment. It makes no sense to me, but I don't know how we fix it. But, that's the way it works right now. Hey, did you know that on February 28th, there was a blackout that people were trying to black out? You have something on DEI, I know. And people were saying, don't shop on February 28th. We're going to let these stores know that are not doing the DEI anymore, that we're angry with them. And yeah, I know you have something. So it fits in very well with my little blackout story. I'll let you do yours first, but then I've got a little bit about, the effectiveness of doing these blackouts. I couldn't find too much on whether or not they were effective for February 28th or not. But anyway.
I have to read this because there are so many things that it talks about. It puts it in a logical order more than I could do extemporaneously. So the article was Disney rolls back DEI initiative, citing a focus on business outcomes. Now let that sink in. You mean to tell me you're allowing Disney to do what it wants to do? Okay. Disney is slowly scaling back its diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative, heading into the second Trump presidency, following the lead of multiple other Fortune 500 companies that have rolled back or outright eliminated their own costly and ineffective DEI programs. Now, this comes from a liberal news site, okay? For one thing, the House of Mouse announced it is replacing its diversity and inclusion performance factor for hiring and salary purposes with something called talent strategy. You mean to tell me you are going to actually employ people that have talent to work for Disney instead of what somebody from the outside tells you, which will focus more on upholding company values. So Disney can now uphold its own values without DEI interfering. As a successful driver, whether a person fits into a prescribed racial or gender category. My goodness, where has this been for the past 30 years? I mean, didn't we fight this all along? I think people and businesses need to do, the old adage about government that governs best is closest to the people. Well, this is exactly what this is doing, is coming back. It's getting rid of all of this crap that the government is forcing on you. Let the owners of this business do what's best for their business and their people.
It usually works well that way.
Isn't it amazing?
Well, then they're either successful or the people will reject what they're doing and it won't work. And hopefully they'll make a beeline to the other direction.
Do you remember over the past year, there was a boycott to Disney?
Yes.
Because of their cartoon characters. They were trying to, little Bobby has two mommies and, bringing all of this in there. And they're saying, Disney is saying, that's not working. That's not part of our model. Yeah. I think that's just wonderful to hear this. Right.
Well, so on that vein, I kind of, because this There was and I wish I would have pulled up who it was that organized the blackout, because they wanted to do a blackout on some of the stores that were removing DEI per what Trump was talking about in the Trump administration, and they were upset about it, and so they wanted to make a stand, and so they were saying to everybody, don't shop on February 28th. Well, it was interesting. If you went on social media, depending on what social media you went on, many people were saying, yeah, I'm not going to shop, I'm not going to shop. But there were a lot of people that were saying, oh, I'm going shopping on February 28th.
I'm going to buy more than I had planned on.
That's right. So, and so I just did a little bit of research. I couldn't find anything to find out if it was truly effective. But in my research, research suggests blackout protests can raise awareness and mobilize support, but achieving specific outcomes like policy changes is uncertain and varies by the context. So I think that that's, very true, right? Because how do you measure whether or not that was effective? Can you really tell for one day, how much a store did or didn't do, and did it have an effectiveness? But it does serve the purpose of awareness, right? I'm talking about it, and there were people on social media all over talking about whether they, one way or the other. So now, did it really help or did it hurt? Because now you have the opposing side all saying, oh no, we're going shopping. So I don't know. I'm not a fan of blackouts myself. I just don't think that
let the system work.
Yeah, and I think that, write a letter, call the corporate office, do something like that. The people that are doing it will hear from you. That to me makes, and reasonably and professionally, not in an angry, you can be angry. I'm not going to say you shouldn't be angry, because you're probably angry and you have a right to be, because it's how you feel. But when you're dealing with the individuals, you should be respectful, even if you're angry. And I think you can do that.
No, I agree with that. Unfortunately, that's what I've found.
I just don't think it makes a lot of difference in what people do, though. You know what I mean? As far as the company, unless it fits in. And if you hit their pocketbook, you're only hitting it for that one day.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Whenever you have any type of dialogue with people on the left, they have a very thin veneer that they support. Once you penetrate that veneer, the next level they go to, and you see it all the time, is name calling.
Right. Well, here's historical context and some examples. Historical examples provide insight into the potential effectiveness of blackout protests. The Montgomery bus boycott, 1955, 1956, so this has been around a while, folks, is a classic case where African Americans in Montgomery, Alabama, boycotted the bus system for over a year. Wow. But look at how long they did it.
Yeah.
Leading to in becoming a cornerstone of the civil rights movement. This sustained effort, contrasting term, blackouts, highlighting the importance of duration, so yeah, the duration is important. One day, is that really going to help?
Speaking of busing, the law of the land here for several years is that we will bus your child to wherever we want. Do you remember that?
I do.
And we're going to get equality that way.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan.
No, I not only wasn't a fan.
I don't think anybody was a fan except, I don't know, whoever decided to do it, right?
Well, it's one of those things that they say, oh, this is really going to work well. No, it's not.
No.
Yeah. Oh,
so we have, let's see how much time we've got. We probably got about another 20 minutes or so. So I want to talk a little bit, because you probably have a book. You probably brought a book today, right? Did you?
I'm sorry?
You brought a book today, right?
I did.
Okay, so we'll do the book blitz. But let's talk in terms of books, because I do like to cover the book stuff. Turning a book into a movie.
Okay.
So, I talk to a lot of authors, and so many of them really want to make their book into a movie. They truly believe that it'll work, right? It'll make a good movie. Yeah, Doug's got his hand up.
Well, it's very short.
Oh, that's
very
okay, sure.
descriptive. This is one of the many letters that I have received.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, and he's not alone. I've received phone calls from many authors that tell me, hey, I got approached from these folks and they want to take my book. And is it okay if I take my book from you and go over here and do this?
The one thing that I ask is that people are listening. You put your book writing hat on and you receive a letter like this. And I want to know how you feel about answering it. It says, Dear Douglas, I hope this message finds you well. I am reaching out to inquire about the ownership of film rights for your book, Heroes and Giants. If you currently hold the rights, would you be open to discussing how much you would consider selling them for? It says, my team and I at Open Road Films are actively purchasing the film rights for books to develop exciting new projects. Over the past 6 months, we have successfully acquired more than 30 projects, and 23 of them have already secured contracts with production companies. We are very interested in learning about the possibility of working with you. If this opportunity aligns with your goals, please let us know. And this is Sarah, Executive Assistant, Los Angeles, California.
Did you call?
No.
Okay. And why did you make that decision?
Because usually what I'll do is I'll write them back and say, hey, thank you very much. Letters like this will get any writer's heart pumping fast.
Absolutely.
And I said, if you're actually interested in developing something that we can both work with, I'm all in. But if this is just a come on to sell me something, please, I'm not interested.
And so you feel that's just a come on to sell you
Well,
something.
when if I don't receive a response, I know it is a come on.
And you didn't receive a
No,
response.
actually, the reason I saved this is because I thought one of the things in the last 2 weeks, especially with the Academy Awards, they have been pushing the Academy Awards. They pushed it before, and now they're telling about all the glamour and all of this. The reality is Hollywood is producing a bunch of crap, and the public knows that. Their receipts for the movies are drastically down. So with that being said, if the movie industry is in a bind, I have a good book that would make a great movie. Well, maybe there is somebody interested.
Well, and through my research, what I found is that Hollywood's always looking for stories, strong narratives, vivid characters, visuals that translate well to the screen, right? And so a book with a clear 3-act structure, beginning, middle, and end, dynamic conflict, and a universal theme is more likely to attract filmmakers. Okay.
Let me tell you something about my book before I wrote it. One of the things that I did, Jimmy Stewart starred in a movie in the middle 60s by the name of The FBI Story. And what it was it was an arc. It was the story of how one person's career moved through the FBI. And I said, that is perfect for a blueprint for how to do my book. So
Right.
that's what I used.
Right. Okay. So how to do it. Focus on a gripping plot with high stakes and memorable characters. Consider the production costs. Stories with smaller. So here's the problem that you have. This is kind of giving you a guideline, but you've already written your book, right? So now you have to really look at it and evaluate it based on some of this criteria, right? Because most people don't go in writing their book thinking it's going to make a movie, or they'd be writing a screenplay instead of a book, right? So if you want your book made into a movie, maybe read some successful book-to-film adaptations. So the suggestion was Shawshank Redemption by Stephen King or The Martian by Andy Weir to understand what works. Build a strong audience and buzz. Well, if you've been at it for a while with your book, hopefully you've got a strong audience. If you don't, that's okay. You can still build a strong audience. Why it matters. Producers are more likely to option a book with proven popularity. It reduces their financial risk. A strong fan base signals market demand. How to do it. Whether you self-publish or go traditional, market your book aggressively, aim to sell thousands of copies, get positive reviews from, you know all about reviews, credible sources, and build a social media following. So, for instance, Andy Weir's The Martian gained traction online before it was picked up for a film. So that's a method of doing it. And most authors have a really tough time with the marketing angle of their book.
As do I.
Right, because either they're not on social media or they just really don't have the wherewithal.
First off, you say wherewithal, it's the expertise to be able to do it. But not only that, life is busy.
Yes.
And this is a full-time job.
It is a full-time job, and that's and having a movie, having your book adapted to a movie is a full-time job as well.
I have investigated that about having my book made into a screenplay. There's some people out there say for $999 I'll do it. And then you look also a little bit deeper past that, and they said, yes, I can do that, but it's going to cost you close to $13,000.
That is correct. I know somebody who does it, and that's probably about what he would charge.
Yeah.
So polish your book and protect your rights. Well, again, hopefully your book is polished already. Hopefully that's one little hurdle you don't have to get over. However, you're also going to have to polish it for a movie as opposed to a book. And that's a whole different ballgame, right? Craft a movie pitch. Why it matters. Even if you don't write the screenplay, a concise pitch helps sell your story to filmmakers. And there are things, if you research on the internet, there are things on there that will help you understand how to write that pitch, because there are certain things that you have to do to make it appealing to somebody who does a movie, right? They're looking for certain aspects, just like when you submit it to a publisher, there are certain things publishers want, there are certain things that movie directors want.
With this lady that wrote, I did follow it up and find her company in Los Angeles. It's a verified company. I mean, it's,
it's real.
Yes, it is.
Sure.
So
I'm sure it is, but how many thousands do they want? That's the question. And if you're willing to do that and you feel comfortable with the group that approaches you and you get into a dialogue, by all means.
Jan,
but
I would be willing, if the price was reasonable, I would be willing to do that.
Yeah.
But there are no guarantees.
No, none. So summarize your book in a log line, one sentence, and a short synopsis, 1 to 2 pages, emphasizing the hook, key characters, and cinematic potential. So for a sole survivor, you might pitch, a woman survives childhood trauma, cancer, and 13 foster homes to find faith and love. Perfect for an inspiring drama. So you really have to be succinct in your log lines, and, you can't be wordy and all of that. I mean, there's a certain, my suggestion would be you find somebody who's done this and you have them help you present.
See, again, with my book, it's not just a story, it's a journey. It takes you through 30-some years. Well, how do you adapt that?
Right. I know. That's why you have to hire somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yes.
Yes. Find representation. You led me right into my next one. Find representation. Literary or film agents have industry connections and know how to navigate Hollywood. They can pitch your book to producers or studios you'd never reach alone. And it's not just Hollywood, too, by the way. It's more than Hollywood, because now people everywhere are making films. So, you want the Hollywood one, of course, that's what you want. But even if you can get into a mid-level, that would be great, right? Because that, especially if you're an author that's writing more than one book, now you've got an opportunity to do the next one and the next one, right? So you need to research the agents who specialize in your genre and have a track record of selling film rights. There's always the writer's market or online databases like Query Tracker. Query them with your pitch, book details, and sales stats. That's the thing. You're going to have to give them all that information so that they feel like it's worth it, right? I'm going to probably run out of time here if I keep going too far. Okay, consider writing a screenplay or paying somebody to write it, but that can be pretty pricey stuff. Pitch to producers or studios. You know what? There are often contests out there that will say, hey, give us a log line and this and that, and then, we'll put you into this contest and maybe you'll win, right? I mean, there's lots of ways to do it. But you really, as Doug said, it's a full-time job. Yeah. It really is a full-time job. Writing a book is a full-time job. And, it's not something that just, you just write it and, okay, I'm done now. That's not true. No. Okay. I like step number 9. Be patient and persistent. And that's really, really hard.
Those are 180 degrees opposite each other.
The film industry moves slowly. And even optioned books often stall. I know somebody who had a book optioned, and he's still waiting. Only about 10% of optioned books become movies. So even once you get it optioned, then it's, am I going to get anywhere with this?
Well, the unfortunate thing is, or maybe fortunate if you're on the buying end of this, is that, some screenplays, some books, they'll get $1 million for their story. But that's not what they're talking about here. They're talking about pennies on the dollar.
Right. So. Yes. Negotiate smartly if you do get optioned. A good deal protects your interests and maximizes earnings. Consult an entertainment lawyer. Rely on your agent to negotiate the option agreement. Now you're into uncharted territory for yourself, probably, unless you've, had this experience before. So you want to make sure that you have somebody that maybe has done it before to help negotiate the agreement. Aim for a purchase price like 2% of the film's budget if production starts, and clarify what your role is. Retain rights for future books if possible. And don't give away all rights. Limit the studio's control to this specific adaptation.
That's interesting. Mm-hmm. That statement is very interesting.
Yep. Right. And then have realistic expectations. Even with these steps, success isn't guaranteed. Most books never make it to the screen due to funding issues, studio priorities, or timing. However, by writing a strong story, building an audience, and strategically pitching, you're going to tilt the odds in your favor. And I'm often kind of a Debbie Downer because you see so few people achieve that mark. But I'm also ever the optimist that, if you don't try, you won't get there.
Right. That's the spitball theory.
Yeah. You got to go, if your heart says this is what I want to do, I say go for it. I know, you may be treading down a path that you never get there, but if you enjoy the journey, then it's okay. Yeah. And who knows what you're going to run into when you do it, right? Well, so I'm gonna say go for it.
I can use myself as an example because I don't take things on face value. And the first publisher that we had was called I've forgotten.
Tate
Publishing, and it was in Oklahoma.
Yep.
And so I told my wife Debbie, I said, all right, let's fly back there. We'll go, because I honestly expect to go into a storefront, with a guy, big desk, nothing on it except an ashtray and him smoking a cigar. Yeah, what do you need, bud? Type deal. Hey, we went there. They had a staff of over 200 people, and they had writers. They had, you name it. It was a very in-depth publishing company. But they took
Doug's taking out the mic.
Yeah, they should have done jail time because what they did was
Yeah.
criminal.
It was criminal.
But they were also they did religious books.
Yes, that made it even worse.
Every now and then when I will see where they are, still nothing on. It's all old news.
Yeah.
There's nothing there.
Yeah.
District
In the
Attorney
meantime,
level.
though, we're going to have Doug give you his preferred book of the day, our book blitz,
All
because we
righty,
only
this
have
is-
probably 4 minutes left.
Okay, all right. This
Or
is
5.
great. I can do this in less.
Oh, that's all right. You take
30
your time.
seconds.
Take your time.
And you know what? This, again, I try to keep it
Relevant.
in context of
Right.
what we're talking about.
Right.
The name of the book is Follow Your Heart, January
Ah.
2019. It's by Andrew Matthew, and he has 4.7 out of 5 stars, and Goodreads gives it a 4.2. And it says, Follow Your Heart is about doing what you love and finding peace of mind. It's about dealing with disasters and not blaming your mother. It's about how happy people think, why rich people make money, even by accident. And it's about what losers do and how not to be like them. Easy to read and illustrated with Andrew Matthews' famous cartoons. Almost 2 million copies have sold in 42 languages. Again, the name of it is Follow Your Heart.
And it's finding purpose in your life and work.
Yep.
Right? Written and illustrated by Andrew Matthews and published in 31 languages. Wow,
Isn't that
look
great?
at that.
Look at that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. On the back cover, Dr. Wayne Dyer, author of Your Erroneous Zones, I've read that, and Real Magic. A roadmap for your own happiness, a must-read book. Your mission in life is not to be without problems. Your mission is to get excited. That goes right along with what we're talking about, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So, whoever you are, you aren't stuck. You're a human being, not a tree.
You know,
cute.
one thing that life has taught me, if you accept responsibility for your mistakes, you're way ahead of the game because most people won't do that. If you do not take responsibility for your mistakes, you will never learn.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
simple.
yeah, pretty simple. Simple stuff.
Yeah.
Well, everybody, I want to thank you for joining us today. Suzanne, thank you for your comment. And be sure to go on to Substack, hermson.substack.com. And Hermson is with an E-N, not an O-N. And check that out. And if you haven't subscribed already, I hope you will. Be sure to look at, I didn't even do this. Let me see if I can find, there we go. Yeah, there it is. Discover our new collection. Flying off the shelves. What's the story? right? There you go.
Yeah.
One.
All right.
Wrong one. There we go. Freedom Series, new collection. So check that out. It's in our store. And if you're on the Substack, you can click on the Buy Me a Coffee link and it'll take you to our store as well, or to the link for the store, and you can pick up a cup. They're pretty cool. And, they've got some good sayings on them as well. And we enjoyed making them. We're going to have a little book hound series eventually. I haven't gotten that one done yet, but we'll have some book hound and you'll like those too. They'll be fun. It's all about having fun, right?
It is.
And we'll be doing a mystery party here within the next few months as soon as the shop is done with finishing our little revamp that we're doing. So another mystery party. Woohoo! It'll be fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah, hopefully you can join us.
Little tagline.
Yes.
And you have to come back next week because we'll give you more details on that.
There you go. We sure will. All right. On that note, I'm going to say bye-bye.
Adios.
And adios. And we'll see you next time. Next
right.
week, same time, 3 to 5 on Tuesdays, and then 7 to 9 on 93.7 FM in Northern Nevada.